The 1991 Gulf War in Kuwait can be considered a success for the United States because it brought together a unified global coalition, resulted in limited casualties and short duration, and protected important economic and strategic interests in the Middle East. On January 12, 1991, Congress approved the use of military force against Iraq, which lasted from 1991 to 1992. This led targeted airstrikes across Iraq and Kuwait, which crippled the Iraqi Air Force. After the airstrikes, U.S. and UN forces launched Operation Sabre, ground invasion targeting southern Iraq and Kuwait. Its main objective was to liberate Kuwait, which it achieved in just 3 days. It was primarily initiated because Iraq annexed Kuwait in an attempt to control a larger portion of the world's oil supply. In response, major countries imposed sanctions on Iraq's oil. The joint military effort resulted in very few U.S. casualties, around 300, while the Iraqi army suffered 10,000 casualties. Saddam Hussein believed in that by dubbing the war a holy war, he could get support from other Muslim nations. But his strategy failed. As a result, Iraq was forced to fight the conflict alone. Prior to the war, tensions between Iraq and Kuwait were high due to Iraq's failure to repay its $10 billion debt to Kuwait and Kuwait's actions to impede Iraqi oil exports. Fearing another prolonged conflict in the region, Arab nations called for Western intervention. The war highlighted the strategic importance of the Persian Gulf, prompting us to increase our military presence in the region to prevent conflicts that could drive up oil prices. The disruption caused by the war led to a sharp spike in oil prices and restricted access to the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most vital oil shipping routes. Our goal was to maintain a balance of oil-producing nations in the Gulf, ensuring no single country dominated the region, which helps foster competition and keeps oil prices stable. After the war, there was criticism for not capturing Saddam Hussein. The U.S. believed that Iraqi opponents would overthrow Saddam, but instead Saddam's secret police killed many of these opponents. Efforts to spark Kurdish and Shiite uprisings failed to gain enough support and ultimately failed. President Bush had expected the stock market to boom after the war, but instead the U.S. entered a recession. The most significant achievement of the war was the peace and economic stability it brought to the Middle East. The 1991 Gulf War in Kuwait was a success for the United States. It formed a global coalition of countries, resulted in few casualties, and protected crucial economic and military interests in the region.